Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the U.S. Valiant and watched the alien ships move closer through the dark space ahead. The red lights on his control panel blinked in warning as 43 human crew members worked at their stations. Around him, they had been exploring the outer edge of known space for 6 months. When they found this strange area that the star charts called the Dead Zone, the space around them was full of old structures that looked like they had been floating here for thousands of years. Some were as big as cities and others were smaller, but all of them were dark and silent. No one knew who had built them or why they were here. The official report said they were completely dead and had been that way since before any of the current space-traveling races had left their homeworlds. The alien ships belonged to the Zorthi Empire. Jake had heard stories about them from other human captains who had met them in the outer systems. They were tall creatures with sharp teeth and claws who had built their society around the idea that only the strong deserved to survive. Their ships were sleek and black with weapons that could destroy a human vessel in seconds. The lead Zorthi ship sent a message to the Valiant. The face that appeared on the main screen was reptilian with yellow eyes and rows of pointed teeth. This was Commander Veltar Kess, and his voice sounded like metal scraping against stone when he spoke. "Human vessel, you have entered Zorthi space without permission," Kess said, while his eyes looked at Jake with obvious disgust. "Your species is weak and pathetic. You have no claws, no armor, no psychic powers like the real races that rule the galaxy. Why should we not destroy you right now?" Jake stepped forward and kept his voice calm even though his heart was beating fast. "Commander Kess, we are just explorers on a peaceful mission. We request safe passage through this sector. We mean no harm to your empire or your people." Kess made a sound that might have been laughter, but it was cold and threatening. "Safe passage must be earned, human. Your soft species knows nothing of true strength. Perhaps we will keep some of you alive as servants if you surrender now." The other Zorthi ships moved into attack positions around the Valiant. Jake could see their weapons charging up and getting ready to fire. He was about to order his crew to prepare for battle when something impossible happened. The ancient structures around them began to glow with soft blue light. Lines of energy ran across their surfaces like veins carrying blood through a body. The dead ruins that had been floating in darkness for countless years were suddenly alive and responding to something. Lieutenant Amy Parker, who worked as the ship's expert on old civilizations, gasped at her station. She was looking at the symbols that were appearing on the ancient walls. "Captain, these markings, they look familiar. They remind me of something from Earth's history, but that's impossible." The Zorthi ships stopped moving toward the Valiant. Commander Kess appeared confused and maybe even worried for the first time since the conversation had started. "What is happening here, human? The Nightbuilder ruins have been dead for 40,000 years. Nothing has ever made them respond before." "Nightbuilders," Amy whispered as she worked at her computer. "Captain, I'm reading massive energy signatures from all the structures around us. They're not just glowing, they're scanning us. It's like they're trying to recognize something." More Zorthi ships were arriving in the area. Jake could see at least 20 of them now, and they all seemed nervous about what was happening. The ancient ruins were getting brighter, and the symbols on their walls were moving like living things. Kess spoke again, but his voice was different now. "Human Captain, your presence here has awakened something that should have stayed sleeping. The Nightbuilders were the most powerful civilization this galaxy has ever known. They vanished before my people even learned to use fire." "What were they like?" Jake asked. "Legends say they were protectors and peacekeepers," Kess replied. "They had a code of honor that governed all relations between the starfaring races. They built these stations throughout the galaxy to enforce their laws. When they disappeared, the galaxy fell into chaos and war." Amy looked up from her station with excitement in her eyes. "Captain, I'm detecting something incredible. These stations aren't just scanning us, they're responding to our genetic patterns. It's like they recognize humans specifically." The largest structure in the area suddenly sent out a beam of light that touched the Valiant's hull. The ship's systems came alive with new information and displays that Jake had never seen before. Ancient star charts appeared on their screens, showing the locations of similar structures throughout the galaxy. Impossible, Cass said. The Night Builder technology only responds to the rightful inheritors of their legacy. But humans are a young species. You could not possibly be connected to them. Jake looked at the data flowing across his screens and felt something change inside him. The ruins were not just responding to humans, they were welcoming them home. Dr. Sam Rodriguez had spent 20 years studying dead civilizations, but nothing had prepared him for what he found inside the Night Builder station. The corridors were built exactly the right size for humans to walk through comfortably. The walls curved upward like the inside of Earth's greatest cathedrals, but they were made from materials that seemed to blend metal and crystal in ways that human science could not explain. Captain Morrison had brought a small team aboard the station, while the Zorethi ships waited outside. They moved carefully through passages that lit up as they approached. The air was clean and breathable, which should have been impossible after 40,000 years of abandonment. "Look at this architecture," Sam said, as he ran his hand along a wall covered in flowing symbols. "It's not just human-sized, it follows human design principles. The proportions, the way the spaces flow from one room to another, it all feels familiar." Amy Parker was recording everything with her scanner. "These symbols are definitely related to Earth's heraldic traditions. I'm seeing patterns that look like coat of arms designs and knightly emblems. But how is that possible when this station predates human civilization by tens of thousands of years?" They found the first holographic chamber deep inside the station. When Sam stepped into the center of the room, blue lights surrounded him and a figure appeared. It was clearly human, but wearing clothing and armor that combined advanced technology with medieval styling. The figure spoke in a language that their translators could barely understand, but the meaning came through clearly. "Welcome home, children of Earth," the hologram said. "We have waited so long for your return to the stars. The galaxy has forgotten. The old ways and honor has been replaced by conquest. You must remember what we taught your ancestors before the Great Scattering." The hologram showed them images of the galaxy as it had been during the time of the Night Builders. Hundreds of different species lived together under a code of conduct that valued protection over power. Disputes were settled through formal challenges rather than wars. No race was allowed to destroy another completely, and the strong were expected to help the weak grow stronger. "We were the guardians of this system," the hologram continued. "Not rulers, but servants of justice and peace. We built these stations throughout the galaxy to maintain the balance between all thinking beings. But we were betrayed by those we trusted most." The images changed to show a great war. Many of the species that the Night Builders had protected turned against them. They wanted the freedom to conquer and expand without limits. The Night Builders fought back, but they were outnumbered and eventually scattered across the void. "Some of us escaped to a distant world," the hologram said. "There we planted the seeds of our knowledge and waited for the day when our descendants would be ready to reclaim their heritage. That world was Earth, and you are those descendants." Sam felt his legs grow weak. "You're saying that humans are related to the Night Builders? That they're children somehow?" "Not just related," the hologram replied. "You are us, the last remnant of our people who survived the Great Betrayal. We seeded Earth with our genetic patterns and our cultural values. Your legends of knights and chivalry are memories of what we once were." Amy was frantically taking notes. "This explains why the stations respond to us. We're not just inheriting their technology, we're reclaiming what was always ours by right." The hologram gestured toward a new chamber that opened as they watched. Inside were rows of equipment and weapons, but also books and training materials. "The galaxy needs the Night Builders again. War and slavery have returned. The strong prey upon the weak without mercy. You must learn the old ways and restore the code of honor." Outside the station, Captain Morrison received urgent messages from across human space. Similar stations were awakening wherever humans had established colonies or outposts. On Earth itself, ancient structures buried beneath the oceans were rising to the surface. The Night Builder network was coming back to life after 40,000 years of silence. "Commander, Kess contacted the Valiant with a message that was both angry and fearful. More Zorthi ships are coming, human. The High Command believes these. Awakening ruins are either a threat to be destroyed or a prize to be claimed. They will not allow your species to control Nightbuilder technology. Morrison looked at the data streaming in from the Awakened station. Ships were building themselves. In hidden yards throughout human space, weapons and defenses that made current technology look primitive were coming online. But most importantly, the systems only responded to humans who acted. According to the ancient code of honor. Sam emerged from the station with his team carrying data crystals full of Nightbuilder knowledge. Captain, we have to get this information to Earth immediately. Humanity isn't just inheriting alien technology, we're remembering who we always were. Our ancestors were the galaxy's protectors and peacekeepers. And now we have to be that again, Morrison said as he watched more Zorthi ships arrive in the distance. The question is whether we're ready for that responsibility. The Nightbuilder station continued to glow with increasing brightness. Deep inside its core, ancient systems were broadcasting a signal across the galaxy. The message was simple, but it would change everything. Their rightful inheritors of the Nightbuilder legacy had returned, and the galaxy would never be the same again. Communications Officer Kate Williams nearly fell from her chair as reports flooded into the Valiant's communication systems from across human space. Every human colony, every outpost, every ship was reporting the same impossible thing. Ancient structures were awakening and responding to human presence like they had been waiting for this moment for thousands of years. On Earth, Admiral Ben Cooper stood in the command center of the Earth Defense Force watching screens that showed incredible changes happening across the planet. The mysterious formations on Mars that scientists had argued about for decades were revealed to be shipyards that were now building vessels using technology beyond human understanding. Ancient structures buried beneath Earth's oceans were rising to the surface and opening like flowers that had been waiting for sunlight. Sir, we're receiving construction data from Nightbuilder systems worldwide, reported Lieutenant Lisa Taylor from her engineering station. These aren't just ships they're building, they're teaching us how to build them ourselves. The technology is integrating with our existing systems and making them better. Cooper watched through the command center's windows as the first Nightbuilder ship completed its construction in the orbital yards. Above Earth, it was beautiful in a way that human ships had never been before. The hull seemed to flow like water but was stronger than any armor humanity had ever created. Weapon systems were built into the design so perfectly that they looked like natural parts of the ship rather than additions. Admiral, these ships only respond to human crews, Kate reported from her communication post on the Valiant. We've tested the systems with volunteers from other species and nothing happens. The Nightbuilder technology recognizes something in human genetic patterns that makes us the only ones who can operate it. The Galactic Council was meeting an emergency session as reports reached them of the awakening Nightbuilder network. For 3,000 years, the Council had maintained order through a simple system. The strongest races ruled over the weaker ones. Resources were controlled by those who could take them and hold them. Species that could not defend themselves were either enslaved or eliminated. The Zorthi Empire had been the dominant power in this system. Their military strength and willingness to use extreme violence had made them the unofficial leaders of the galaxy. Below them were dozens of other aggressive species who served as their allies and enforcers. At the bottom were the peaceful races who survived only by serving their stronger neighbors. Commander Kess transmitted a message to his superiors from the dead zone where he still watched the awakening Nightbuilder station. The humans have activated technology that we believed was forever lost. Our intelligence reports that similar awakenings are happening throughout their space. If they gain full access to Nightbuilder capabilities, they will become the most powerful force in the galaxy overnight. The Zorthi High Command responded with typical directness. Destroy the humans before they can learn to use their inheritance. The Nightbuilder Code of Honor will not allow them to rule as we do. They will try to change everything. But destroying the humans was no longer a simple matter. As Admiral Cooper took command of the first completed Night Builder vessel, he felt the ship respond to his thoughts and intentions in ways that seemed almost magical. The vessel could travel faster than any ship humanity had ever built. Its weapons could disable enemy vessels without killing their crews. Most remarkably, its defenses could protect entire planets from attack. Dr. Sam Rodriguez studied the historical records that the Night Builder stations were sharing with human scientists. The original Night Builders didn't rule through fear or conquest, he explained to a gathering of Earth's leaders. They maintained peace by being protectors rather than rulers. Strong enough to stop any aggressor, but dedicated to helping all species develop their potential. And now that responsibility falls to us, Cooper said, as he reviewed the flood of information coming from awakened stations across human space. Every Night Builder system that comes online makes it clear that we're expected to take up their role as galactic peacekeepers. Kate Williams coordinated communications between human colonies as they reported more discoveries. Night Builder medical technology that could heal injuries and diseases that had been considered incurable. Manufacturing systems that could create almost anything without depleting natural resources. Educational programs that could teach the principles of honor and justice that had once governed galactic civilization. The most remarkable thing is how the technology responds to our moral choices, reported Lisa Taylor. The more closely our actions align with Night Builder principles, the more powerful the systems become. It's like the technology itself has a conscience. Captain Morrison received orders to return to Earth with all the data his team had gathered. As the Valiant prepared to leave the dead zone, he watched the ancient station continue to grow brighter. Similar beacons of light were appearing throughout the galaxy as dormant Night Builder outposts awakened to the return of their rightful inheritors. The galaxy is about to change in ways that no one can predict, Morrison told his crew. We're not just humans anymore. We're the inheritors of the greatest peacekeeping civilization the galaxy has ever known. The question is whether we're worthy of that inheritance. The Zorathi fleet that had been gathering in the dead zone received new orders. They were to return to home space immediately to prepare for a war unlike any the galaxy had seen in 40,000 years. The age of rule by conquest was ending, and the age of protection and honor was about to begin again. Commander Ryan Bell had always believed in doing the right thing even when it was the hardest path to choose. Now, as he looked at the three massive Zorathi dreadnoughts surrounding the human colony on Haven Prime, the belief was being tested in ways he had never imagined. His ship, the Guardian's Oath, was one of the new Night Builder vessels that had been completed just weeks ago, and he was still learning how to work with its advanced systems. The colonists on Haven Prime had made an incredible discovery while building their settlement. Deep beneath the ground, they had found an intact Night Builder academy complete with training facilities and educational programs that had been waiting for 40,000 years. Dr. Helen Murphy, who led the colony's research team, had spent days exploring the underground complex, and what she found there changed everything. Commander Bell, the academy isn't just a school, Helen reported from the planet's surface. It's a complete training system designed to teach the principles that govern Night Builder civilization. The moral codes aren't just suggestions, they're built into the technology itself. The more closely we follow the principles of protection and justice, the more powerful the systems become. The Zorathi had discovered the Awakening Academy and demanded that the colonists surrender it to them immediately. Admiral Vexthal, who commanded the Zorathi fleet, made his intentions clear in a message broadcast to both the colony and Bell's ship. Human settlers, you have found Night Builder technology that rightfully belongs to the strongest race in this sector, Vexthal declared. Surrender the academy and all its contents to us, or we will take it by force. Your primitive defenses cannot stand against our dreadnoughts. Bell knew that the Zorathi were right about one thing. The colony's defenses were minimal and designed mainly to protect against space debris and minor threats. 3 Zorathi dreadnoughts could reduce the settlement to ashes in minutes. But as he sat in the command chair of the Guardian's Oath, he felt something he had never experienced before. The Night Builder ship was responding to his determination to protect the innocent colonists. Systems that had been dormant during his journey to Haven Prime were suddenly coming online. Weapons that he didn't even know existed were powering up and defensive. Screens that could protect entire planets were activating at his command. "Sir, the ship is changing itself," reported his chief engineer, Lieutenant Tony Martinez. "New systems are appearing on our control panels, and the computer is giving me access to capabilities that weren't there an hour ago. It's like the ship is learning from your intentions and giving you the tools you need." Bell thought about the Night Builder principles that Dr. Murphy had described. Protection of the innocent was more important than personal safety. Justice was more valuable than victory. The goal was not to destroy enemies, but to stop them from causing harm, while preserving the possibility that they might choose a better path. Admiral Vexthal Bell broadcast to the Zorathi fleet. "The people of Haven Prime are under the protection of humanity and the Night Builder legacy. I'm ordering you to withdraw from this system immediately." The Zorathi admiral's response was a harsh laugh. "One human ship against 3 Zorathi dreadnoughts. You will be destroyed in seconds, and then we will take what we came for." The battle that followed became the stuff of legend throughout human space. Bell's ship didn't just fight the Zorathi fleet, it danced around their massive vessels like a living thing. The Night Builder weapons were unlike anything the galaxy had seen in thousands of years. Instead of destructive beams designed to kill, they fired precision energy, pulses that disabled enemy systems without harming the crews inside, the Guardians. Oath seemed to anticipate every attack the Zorathi made. When the dreadnoughts fired their most powerful weapons, Bell's ship simply wasn't there anymore. It moved through space in ways that seemed to defy the laws of physics, while its defensive screens deflected attacks that should have been devastating. "Impossible," Vexthal transmitted as his flagship found its weapons systems completely disabled. "No single ship can stand against a Zorathi battle fleet." "What kind of technology is this?" "The technology of protectors rather than conquerors," Bell replied as his ship positioned itself between the Zorathi fleet and the planet. "Your ships are disabled, but your crews are unharmed. You can choose to withdraw peacefully, or you can call for reinforcements and learn the same lesson again." Dr. Murphy watched the battle from the Academy deep beneath Haven Prime's surface. The ancient training programs were showing her how the Night Builders had fought when they had no choice. Every weapon, every defensive system, every tactical decision was designed around the principle of minimum necessary force. The goal was always to stop aggression while preserving life. The Zorathi dreadnoughts found themselves completely helpless. Their weapons wouldn't fire, their engines wouldn't respond, and their communication systems only worked when Bell allowed them to function. But their life support systems remained perfect, and none of their crew members had been injured. "This is Admiral Vexthal to all Zorathi forces in this sector," the alien commander finally broadcast. "Withdraw from Haven Prime immediately. The humans possess defensive capabilities that we cannot overcome with conventional tactics." As the Zorathi fleet limped away from Haven Prime, word of the battle spread across the galaxy faster than the ships themselves could travel. Humanity hadn't just inherited Night Builder technology. They were demonstrating the values that had made the Night Builders the galaxy's most respected civilization. Bell sat in his command chair as the Guardian's Oath settled into a protective orbit around Haven Prime. The ship's systems were already returning to their dormant state, but he knew they would awaken again whenever they were needed to protect the innocent. "Commander, we're receiving messages from across human space," reported his communications officer. "Every colony, every outpost wants to know how we defeated 3 dreadnoughts without destroying them." Bell smiled as he looked down at the planet below, where Dr. Murphy and her team were learning the ancient ways of honor and protection. "Tell them we remembered who we're supposed to be." General Frank Carter stood before the reformed Galactic Assembly and looked out at representatives from over 200 different species. The Great Chamber had been rebuilt according to Night Builder principles, with every race given an equal voice regardless of their military power or economic strength. The changes hadn't happened overnight, and they certainly hadn't happened without resistance from those who preferred the old system of rule by conquest. 6 months had passed since the battle at Haven Prime, and news of humanity's demonstration of Night Builder principles had spread throughout the galaxy. Some species welcomed the return of the ancient code of honor, while others fought desperately to maintain their dominance over weaker neighbors. The Zorthi Empire had been the most vocal opponents of change until something unexpected happened within their own society. Commander Kess, who had first encountered humanity in the dead zone, now served as the Zorthi representative to the Reformed Assembly. The former predator had undergone a transformation that surprised everyone, including himself. After seeing how Night Builder technology worked, he began to understand that true strength came from protection rather than conquest. The old ways brought only endless war and suffering. Kess addressed the assembly in his grinding metallic voice. My people believe that might made right and that the weak deserve to be enslaved or destroyed. But we have learned that such thinking makes everyone weaker, including those who seem to benefit from it. Dr. Patricia Lee, who now served as humanity's chief diplomatic archaeologist, had spent months working with representatives from dozens of species to establish the new protocols. The Night Builder records contained detailed plans for governing galactic civilization in ways that encouraged cooperation rather than competition. Conflicts between species were now resolved through formal challenges and mediation rather than devastating wars. The Night Builder system isn't about making everyone the same, Patricia explained to a gathering of species leaders. It's about making sure that every civilization has the chance to develop its unique potential. The strong help the weak become stronger, and everyone benefits from the diversity of ideas and capabilities. Engineer Tony Martinez reported regularly to the assembly on the technological changes that were transforming galactic civilization. Night Builder knowledge was being shared freely with all species that agreed to follow the new protocols. Medical advances that could heal previously incurable diseases, manufacturing systems that could provide abundance without depleting natural resources, transportation networks that connected distant worlds in hours rather than months. The most remarkable aspect of Night Builder technology is how it encourages cooperation, Tony told the assembled representatives. Systems work better when different species work together than when they compete against each other. It's like the technology itself promotes unity and mutual aid. The changes weren't just political and technological. Throughout human space, people were discovering that the Night Builder legacy was transforming them as well. Captain Morrison, who had become Admiral Morrison after his discoveries in the dead zone, now commanded a fleet dedicated to protecting trade routes and preventing conflicts rather than conquering territory. We're not the same humans who left Earth to explore the galaxy, Morrison reported to the assembly. Accepting our role as inheritors of the Night Builder legacy has awakened something in our species. The ancient instincts for exploration and protection are finding their perfect expression in our new responsibilities. The most dramatic change came in how galactic conflicts were resolved. When the hegemony of brutal worlds attempted to enslave the peaceful Merchant Federation, humanity responded with a demonstration of Night Builder principles that became a model for future interventions. Instead of destroying the hegemony's military forces, human ships disabled their weapons and then helped both sides negotiate a peaceful resolution. General Carter had overseen this intervention personally. The hegemony leaders expected us to either ignore their aggression or respond with equal brutality, he explained to the assembly. When we offered them a path to prosperity through cooperation rather than conquest, they chose to take it. Their former victims became their partners, and both civilizations benefited. Not every species accepted the new order willingly. The Shadow Coalition, a group of races that had profited from the chaos of the old system, attempted to sabotage Night Builder installations throughout the galaxy. But they discovered that the ancient technology had defenses that activated automatically when threatened. Instead of destroying the saboteurs, the systems captured them and provided them with educational programs designed to help them understand the benefits of the honor code. Dr. Sam Rodriguez, who had become the galaxy's leading expert on Night Builder history, made a discovery that explained why the ancient system worked so well. The Night Builders understood something that most civilizations miss, he told a conference of scientists and philosophers. Competition between groups makes everyone weaker while cooperation makes everyone stronger. Their technology simply makes this natural law visible and undeniable. The Zorathi underwent the most dramatic transformation of any species. Their natural hunting instincts, which had once been used for conquest, proved to be perfectly suited for tracking pirates and criminals. In partnership with human peacekeeping forces, they became the galaxy's most effective law enforcement agents. Admiral Cooper, who now commanded the Night Builder fleet, reported to the Assembly on the results of the new system. Crime rates have dropped by 70% in sectors where the new protocols are fully implemented. Trade has increased by over 300% as species learn to trust each other. Most importantly, we haven't had a single case of attempted genocide since the code was restored. As General Carter looked out at the diverse representatives in the assembly chamber, he reflected on how much had changed in such a short time. Species that had been enemies for centuries were now working together on joint projects. Technologies were being shared freely rather than hoarded. The threat of extinction had been removed from galactic politics as the Night Builder network protected any civilization that faced annihilation. "We have restored more than just ancient technology," Carter addressed the assembly in closing. "We have restored the possibility of a galaxy where all thinking beings can thrive together. The Night Builders would be proud to see their legacy living again in the cooperation between so many different civilizations." The Assembly approved the new Galactic Charter by unanimous vote, marking the official end of the Age of Conquest and the beginning of the Age of Cooperation. 5 years had passed since humanity first awakened the Night Builder network, and Captain Mary Thompson patrolled the outer rim in her ship, the beacon's light responding to calls for help from across the galaxy. The transformation had been remarkable, but it was the daily work of maintaining peace and protecting the innocent that truly showed how far galactic civilization had advanced. Mary received a distress signal from the Kethver system, where two species that had been enemies for over 1,000 years were finally ready to negotiate a lasting peace treaty. The Fire Dancers and the Stonewalkers had fought each other across a dozen worlds, leaving both civilizations weakened and bitter. But the new galactic protocols offered them a path to resolve their ancient conflict without more bloodshed. "Captain Thompson, this is Ambassador Velthic of the Fire Dancers," came the transmission as Mary's ship approached the neutral space station where the negotiations were taking place. "We requested human mediation because your species has proven that former enemies can become trusted allies." The peace talks had been going on for 3 weeks, but yesterday they had reached a crisis point. Both species claimed ownership of a mineral-rich moon that could provide resources needed for rebuilding their war-damaged worlds. Under the old system, this would have led to another destructive conflict as both sides prepared their fleets for battle. Mary docked her ship at the station and made her way to the conference room where representatives from both species sat on opposite sides of a long table. The Fire Dancers were tall and graceful with skin that seemed to glow with inner light. The Stonewalkers were shorter and stockier with rocky hide that could turn aside most weapons. Both species looked frustrated and angry. "The moon of Kethver 3 has belonged to my people for 600 years, declared Speaker Throaks of the Stonewalkers in a voice like grinding boulders. "Our ancestors died defending it against Fire Dancer raids. We will not surrender our rightful heritage." "Your people stole that moon from us during the War of Burning Skies," replied Ambassador Velthic, with flames dancing around his fingers as his emotions flared. Fire Dancer colonies existed there for centuries before the Stonewalkers arrived. Justice demands its return. Mary had studied the history of both claims on her way to the system. The Night Builder records contained detailed information about the original settlement patterns in this region, and the truth was more complicated than either species wanted to admit. But she had also learned that the best solutions often came from thinking beyond the immediate problem. "I've reviewed the historical evidence that both of your peoples have provided," Mary said as she took her seat at the head of the table. "You're both right about your claims to Kethver 3. Fire Dancer colonies were there first, but Stonewalker settlements were established during a period when the fire dancers had abandoned the moon due to volcanic activity. Both ambassadors began to speak at once, but Mary raised her hand for silence. The question isn't who has the better claim to the moon. The question is how both of your peoples can benefit from its resources while building the trust needed for lasting peace. She activated a holographic display that showed detailed scans of Kethver 3. The moon was rich in rare minerals, but it was also geologically unstable with frequent earthquakes and volcanic eruptions that made permanent settlement dangerous. However, the same geological activity that made it dangerous for colonists also made it perfect for certain types of automated mining. The fire dancers have the best technology in the galaxy for working with extreme heat and volcanic environments, Mary explained. The Stonewalkers have the most advanced mining equipment and the ability to build structures that can withstand earthquakes. Working together, you could extract more resources from this moon than either species could manage alone. Ambassador Velthek leaned forward with interest. You're suggesting a joint operation. But how do we ensure fair distribution of the profits? Our peoples have been enemies for so long that trust will not come easily. Mary smiled and activated another display that showed successful joint ventures between former enemy species throughout the galaxy. The Zorathi and the gentle folk of Arcturus were now partners in a dozen different enterprises. The warrior clans of Sigma Draconis worked closely with the Scholar Collective to explore dangerous regions of space. The Night Builder records contain detailed frameworks for exactly this type of cooperation, Mary explained. Shared ownership, shared profits, shared responsibilities. Both species contribute their strengths and both benefit from the results. Most importantly, you'll be working together toward common goals instead of fighting over limited resources. Speaker Throaks rumbled thoughtfully as he studied the proposed partnership agreements. This plan would require Stonewalker miners to work alongside fire dancer technicians. Our peoples have never cooperated before. Then this will be a chance to discover what you can accomplish together, Mary replied. The greatest achievements in galactic history have come from cooperation between different species. Your unique abilities complement each other perfectly. Over the next few days, Mary helped both species work out the details of their partnership. The negotiations weren't always smooth, but gradually the representatives began to see each other as potential partners rather than ancient enemies. When the fire dancers offered to help rebuild Stonewalker cities damaged in their wars, and the Stonewalkers volunteered to help establish fire dancer colonies on worlds with challenging geology, both sides realized how much they could gain from friendship. The signing ceremony took place in the station's main hall with representatives from dozens of species attending to witness this historic moment. Ambassador Velthek and Speaker Throaks signed the treaty together while their peoples watched from their homeworlds. This agreement represents more than just a peace treaty between our species, Velthek declared. It shows that the ancient cycle of hatred and war can be broken when we choose to see former enemies as future friends. Mary watched the ceremony with satisfaction, but her work was far from finished. As she prepared to leave the station, her communications officer reported 3 more requests for mediation from different parts of the galaxy. The work of maintaining peace was never-ending, but it was also deeply rewarding. Dr. Kevin Wright contacted Mary from his research station where he continued to study Night Builder history and philosophy. Captain, we've made another significant discovery about our ancestors. The Night Builders didn't just maintain peace through superior technology. They transformed galactic civilization by helping species discover what they could accomplish through cooperation. As Mary set course for her next assignment, she reflected on how much the galaxy had changed. Children from dozens of different worlds played together in the parks of space stations throughout human space, learning values of cooperation and mutual respect that would shape their futures. Former enemy species worked side by side on joint projects that benefited everyone involved. The stars had forgotten the knights, but the knights had returned not as conquerors but as teachers and protectors, just as they had always been meant to be.